want us to pick up, Amir, with this issue around the history of Masjid Muhammad and its transition. Because we move from being founded by the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and then there's a transition to the son of Elijah Muhammad, to Warathuddin Muhammad, and those changes. When is that? What is that? How does it work?
That began in 1975, and to make it short, it's really like the Muslim made change their Qibla.
Qibla, what's Qibla?
The direction of their faith and the direction of their prayers. Before we were saluting, looking at Elijah Muhammad, other ritual and un-Islamic things. And then under the leadership of Imam Warathuddin Muhammad, we changed our Qibla, our direction, into following the Sunnah, into worshiping Allah.
Sunnah, what is Sunnah? Because you're mixing words. You know.
Is following Orthodox or the pure Islam, pure Islamic way of life, versus the having idols or having worshiping personalities.
All right, but let me segue in. I give as an example. I know Sister Bahija, who's so wonderfully dressed today in an Islamic way, but it has its own sort of American style to it.
Yes.
But what did you used to wear as your special dress in the Nation of Islam?
We had what was called the MGT outfits.
What's MGT?
Muslim Girls Training.
Muslim Girls Training.
Yes.
And so it would have been something like this.
Yes, that has a cape, and there's a jacket under there. And we wore what was called a wrap skirt, and it basically was a pants, but it was made like a skirt. And we had some sisters here in D.C.
And a head, and what kind of head covering did?
There's a scarf that's under there.
That goes with this?
Yes, there's a scarf that goes with it. And depending, some of the sisters who were officers, they had caps. So sort of like a cap. So those are the outfits that we used to wear, but as Brother Amir said, there was a transition. So when Imam Warathuddin Muhammad became our leader, he was very progressive, and he took us from being girls, and we became women. So, alhamdulillah, it was a blessing for us to be able to do that. And one thing a lot of people don't know, that Muslim women in the Nation of Islam or in the community have a lot of positions in leadership roles, and that's not known, but we do. As I was saying early on, that I've held many positions of leadership as chairperson for various committees. As I indicated, I've been in the interfaith arena for 32 years and served for 27 as a chaplain, and also has been the chairperson for CRADE, which was a committee that Imam Muhammad established early on. That was committee to remove all images of divine.
I remember that.
Yes.
This interfaith, did you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Working with Christians and others to remove what?
Images that
Images of
portray
divine.
divine.
Images of the divine.
Yes.
Because
Racial.
right, that in places where they had pictures of God or something like that, that the notion from the Ten Commandments, I remember this, that thou shalt not make to thyself any graven image.
And people started thinking about it, and these are the kinds of ideas that made Imam Muhammad someone who was just a remarkable human being.
And so that leadership was
Yes.
coming in Washington, D.C., was coming
Yes.
out of Masjid Muhammad.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
that
We were the
influenced-
first in a lot, especially I think with the interfaith. I think with Masjid Muhammad was the first one that started actually with an organized interfaith committee. I think we were. Yes.
Interesting. Amir, you were about to say something.
And the influence of it, moving all racial images of divine has penetrated to a lot of churches today. You see them built without images being put out.
Yeah.
Another thing that under the Imam Warathuddin Muhammad leadership, he made us come more patriotic, made us feel we're part of American society.
Wait a minute now. What was this thing?
New World Patriotism.
New World Patriotism.
Tell us
World-
about
Yes.
You say it.
Yes.
Well, New World Patriotism Day.
Yeah.
What was that?
It was, instead of celebrating July 4th, Independence Day, Imam Muhammad said that we should celebrate the good of America and the good that America has to offer, and that we would have a New World Patriotism Day, a New World Patriotism that enhances all of human life and coming from a perspective of human rights.
Amazing.
Yes.
And this
And if
was
I may
before
add one
Ronald
more,
Reagan.
Go
may I add
ahead.
one more thing.
This
That's
was at
one
the time of
things-
Ronald Reagan.
Before Reagan.
This was
Before
before
Reagan.
Reagan.
Way
oh,
before
right, because
Reagan.
New
Way
World
before
Order.
Ron-
Yes.
Yeah,
This
this
meant
was
something
way-
else. We not gonna
That
go
was
there.
1976.
We're not going to go there.
New World Patriotism Day, I think if I'm not
76, 77.
76 is when he first initiated it. And quite frankly, many members of the community wasn't ready. You know,
I know what you mean.
but many of us trusted in Allah enough to say there's got to be some good for us taking this direction.
Yes.
So, just again, talk about Masjid Muhammad and the new direction we were taking. We went from a reformation movement to a transformation. His father reformed us, and Imam Muhammad transformed us. It was with his leadership.
That's why you're an imam, you know.
Well, alhamdulillah.
May I
Sister
add
Bahija.
one thing also is at one time Imam Muhammad had us make up flyers, and he was running for president and said, remember that, Benjamin?
Well, he didn't
It was-
initiate it, but some
no,
other people
but somebody
initiated it.
did. And we had petitions, and we went down on the mall, and people were actually signing. They would ask us to give some history about this person.
Yeah.
And we're talking about tourists from various parts of the country and parts of the world actually would vote for Imam Wafdi Muhammad. I mean, that, and
Or at
that's
least they
when,
put him on the ballot.
right, put him
Yeah.
on the
But out of
ballot.
but
Yes.
the idea that in Washington, D.C.,
Yes.
you would have these Muslims. And what year was
Yes.
this?
In the early 80s, in the 80s.
Early
I think that was
80s,
the
Muslims
early
talking
80s,
about
right? I think that was
engaging
early.
Yes.
in the political
He told
process,
us
running
to
for
register.
office.
Yes.
And now you have people
Yeah,
like
we have a
Atiba,
lobbyist.
Yes.
who's a fruit of that, who's talking about lobbying Congress
Yes.
in his other life as a businessman.
And
And
he
the
also
first-
told us, Imam Muhammad told us to register to vote.
Yes,
Yes.
that was historical.
And one of the first Muslims to work in the White House was a Muslim woman sister that come from our community, Carolyn Mookman.
That's right.
Worked for
Yes, I know.
Ibrahim's
Nixon,
wife.
Carter, and Johnson administration.
Can you tell them what her name was at that time? Omari.
Amari, Carol Amari. That was her name at that time, and she was on Jet magazine and everything.
Yeah.
The Muslims chaplains, some of the first Muslim chaplains come out of our community in the armed services. Today, there's many thousands of Muslims in the armed services because the Imam
think
opened
there
the
are
door up
approximately
to
4,000.
make us feel more inclusive,
I
become
think-
more involved into the government.
Go ahead,
I think it's
Atiba.
very important to note today that our new resident imam at Masjid Muhammad is a retired Chief Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force. And that the reason why he joined the military, as he's explained and described to us, was because of the way that Imam Muhammad explained some things about being draped in the American flag. And the best way that he felt that he could serve in being that, having that draping, was to wear the United States military uniform and to serve in the military. And he served with distinction, and was and his. He will tell you that he believes that a great deal of his part of his growth as a Muslim was at Masjid Muhammad. And so for him to return now with that background as our imam, I think is very symbolic and very
Yes,
important to
somebody
know.
like-
30 years later,
Yes,
30 years later.
somebody
So,
like-
which is also 30 years from the time he retired from the Air Force in 30 years.
Years.
But
Amazing.
he also started with us in 1980, which is also 30 years.
That's what I'm telling you. Amir, this history has laid a groundwork for the presence of Muslims in the nation's capital. We are going to take a short break, and I want to make sure that we keep the historical focus here in terms of what contributions these Muslims have made. We're going to take a short break. We will be right back. I think this is a fascinating discussion about the history that's probably not well known to most of us. We're going to take a look at a public service announcement, and we'll be right back.